Okay. That seems to have reconnected the audio interface. Are you guys able to hear my voice any better? And if I play the music, I'm almost afraid to play the music now. I'll turn it down just a little bit. Can you hear this music okay? Sounds sick in a strange way. Yes, okay, that's better. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry about the hiccup getting started this morning, everyone. I'm gonna bring the volume back up here. Sounds good. All right. So you guys can hear the music now, and we're not wave folding and Donald ducking. All right. So this is just a piece that we wrote inside of Beatmaker 3 on a live stream a few weeks ago. All right. Thanks, you guys. That's a lot of weird sample fodder for later. Yeah, good deal, Samuel. Right on. All right. But we're not going to be working on like beat quite as intense and up tempo as that today. Today we're going to be doing more chilled and halftime beats. I've been working on a live set with all of my spare time for Clown Fest 6, which is going to be not next Sunday, but the following Sunday. So 2 Sundays from today. And I've been working on a really serious techno patch and a really serious drum and bass patch in the Euro rack. So my head is completely in a different space than like working in a DAW, and that's exactly why we're going to get into this today. We're going to not do techno and we're going to not do drum and bass so that I can kind of clear my mental palette sonically, as it were. Okay, let's get started and let's write something. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start today by creating a new project inside of Beatmaker 3. So I'm just going to click new, and we're just going to open up a brand new project. The first thing we'll do is go ahead and save this project with a name so that during this session I'll be able to, save this at any time. So let's just call this YouTube, and let's call this halftime beats. And then let's just put like some numbers there. Okay, cool. So that way it won't conflict with any potential other titles we've got. And what I want to do is I want to specifically work a little bit with Synthmaster 2 today. There's an expansion from Big Tone that's actually a techno style expansion. And these presets just really sound like they would slot right into techno tracks. And so I figure we're going to try to use those type of sounds today, but not for techno, but rather for trying to make chilled halftime beats. And we're going to see how that works out for us. The first thing we'll do is we're going to go ahead and load. Let's see here. We're going to load Synthmaster 2 onto this track. And let's see, we're going to go to Audio Units V3, and we're just going to look for Synthmaster 2 here. Did I pass it already? No. Okay, here we go. Synthmaster 2 from KV331 Audio, and we're just going to go ahead and load that plugin. And we can actually get the plugin on the screen. If we click on the little keyboard icon down here in the left where it says A1, we can get the actual, synthesizer up on the screen, and we can make it full screen using that little arrow at the bottom, of the screen here. So we can see the synthesizer in its full screen. And I've got, it's very loud. I've got a Novation Launch Key Mini today connected up so that we can play some of these patches right off the bat. I'm going to go ahead and bring the volume down. Hey, Martin, thanks for tuning in. All right, so are you guys able to hear this okay? Is the volume coming through okay? Am I too loud? Am I not loud enough? Just let me know, and we'll adjust some levels as needed through the stream here. I'm going to bring Synthmaster 2 back up again, and we're going to go to the browser. And what I want to do is, let's see here, the author that makes this, actually, we're going to do this. We're going to go to the, where was that bank? It's like, There we go. Big Tone Techno Bits '01 sound bank. And there's tons of presets in here, but what really stuck out to me when I was exploring these last night is these techno grooves here. We've got like all the way from preset 14 down here to preset 48. So 35 different cool techno groove presets. And I want to play like quite a few of these for you guys and just show you what these sound like, because I think these are really awesome presets and they really kind of got me fired up and inspired to start working with them. And I think that's really key, you know, when you're scrolling through presets, if you find something that actually inspires you to start working. All I'm doing here is I'm just holding down one note. I'm just holding down an F on my MIDI controller here, and the patch is doing all that by itself. I mean, literally, if we just dropped a kick drum over that, we've got kind of an instant techno groove. Let me scroll through a few more of these for you guys. This one here, you can hear, has the actual kick drum in it as well. Let's change our tempo from like a slow tempo up to a little bit of a faster tempo. And let's maybe start at, oh, I don't know, like 142 beats per minute today. Let's also put a little bit of swing on the patch by default. We've got a little bit faster tempo now. You can hear what I mean about these are really solid for getting started with techno. Hey, what's happening, Ed? Thanks for tuning in. Here's another one of these techno patches. This might be a little bit low now. This one has like the kick built into it. You've got just a solid techno starter groove right there in that patch. Let's check out another one. And these are, again, I mean, just totally ready to go. Imagine if you dropped the doom, 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 you know, right over this groove here. We've got another one. Really interesting blend of the layers that Synthmaster 2 has available. Interesting one there. That's a really nice solid one right there. All right. That's a really interesting underground groove right there. Can you guys hear what I'm talking about? I think that these grooves have a lot of potential. Again, this is the Big Tone Techno Bits 1 expansion pack for Synthmaster 2. Ooh, I think we're probably going to use a bunch of these today if we're lucky. Yeah, this is that one that I'm really looking for. This one's neat, I think, because it has two layers in it. One of the layers is just kind of like a noise hi-hat, right? And then the other layer is sort of like a melodic type of thing. What we want today is we want to take these little hi-hats and start ourselves a groove. So the very first thing today is I'm just going to go ahead and make a pattern here. We're going to go into the arrangement view for Beatmaker 3 here. And I'm just going to make a really simple one-bar pattern. We're going to go ahead and click in here. And all I need to do is just hold down an F for one bar. And that's because we're going to be writing in the key of F minor. Those of you who are familiar with my channel, we do a lot of F minor writing because that's my favorite key to write in. And today will be no different. Cool. So what we have here is we have just a little tiny one-bar loop. And what we can do is we can actually get the loop brace on up in the top menu here. We can turn the loop on inside of the pattern arrangement view, rather not pattern view, in the arrangement view. So now we're just looping this bar, right? But that's not really what I'm concerned about today. The first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and render out those hats to audio. So let's go ahead and do that. What we're going to do is we're going to click, we're just going to save. Then I'm going to, excuse me. Sorry about that. We're going to go ahead and click the little hamburger icon up here till we get the export option. And that's really what we're looking for. We want to export this into audio. So we're going to go ahead and go audio export. And we just want the master at this time. We just want to start at bar 1. We just want to go for like a bar. We want to export this to a wave format in 24 bits exactly. So we're going to go start export, and it's going to go ahead and just render that out and tell us, where it's at. It's in our exports directory. What I'm going to do is we're going to leave this bank in today with Synthmaster 2 on it so that I can continually, hopefully, record things out from this that we can then turn into audio and bring back into our session. So I'm going to go ahead and load a second bank now that we're going to use as a one bank workflow, and we're just going to keep loading the sounds and samples today onto different pads in this second bank. But I'm leaving Synthmaster 1 here on the first bank so we can continue getting sounds from it as needed. So we need to track down that sample. We're going to go ahead and go to the exports folder, and we're going to look for YouTube halftime beats. That's us. And then here should be the loop. This is a hi-hat loop. Let's go ahead and put this on this pad over here. Yeah, cool. So what I've done is I've now got these hi-hats in audio. So they're totally rendered out. And what we can do is we can go in here and we can edit these. We can go process. We can go normalize to get them a little bit louder. I don't necessarily need these all the way maximized, but we can maybe normalize these to like -4 dB and get them a little bit louder by default. Fantastic. What we can do is let's just go ahead and get these in the mix for now by starting, let me go ahead and actually leave the Synthmaster, in the project, but delete the note inside of Synthmaster that was holding that down. And now all we need to do is hold this down instead. This is the representing the sample that I just loaded onto the pad. Sorry, I didn't really preface my intention today. And my intention today is actually a couple of fold. Sorry, I'm a little scattered because my brain is really in the larger scale project that I'm working on right now for a live set in 2 weeks. But what we're going to be doing today is I'm not going to explain quite as much in detail about every single step of the way, which is what I've done for like the last 4 years every time we open Beatmaker 3. Today I'm going to assume that most of you know a little bit about Beatmaker 3, and we're not going to be just, I'm not going to explain every step as though you've never seen the app before is what I'm trying to say. Okay. Oh, and also, today, I'm really scattered. I apologize. Today is actually the 1 year anniversary of my Sunday live streams. I've been running the YouTube channel, I want to say just over 4 years now. And it was a year ago, I guess this Sunday, that I started going live every Sunday. The intention at the beginning was to start explaining the Euro rack as I was learning that process. And it was a really intense process and took, quite a few weeks for me to get comfortable going live, but now it's been a full year of these Sunday live streams. And for those of you who've been tuning in, for these streams, I really appreciate it. Let me just check in with the chat real fast and make sure that I'm not missing anything. All right. Hey, thanks, Omri. I appreciate that. Okay, so what let's do is let's continue working on this groove here and build this up. So right now what we're doing is we're just playing back the sample, and we're not playing back from the synthesizer. But I want to make sure that when we hit the pad that it doesn't just play the loop in its entirety every time. So we're going to change this from a one shot to a hold mode. And I'm going to bring this, turns on our amplitude envelope, and I'm going to bring the release time on this envelope way down to maybe about 8 to 10 milliseconds. So when I hit the pad and let go, it's only, just playing that one note. we're still going to hear the whole pattern currently because the note inside of the pattern is holding it down, you know. But if I wasn't holding it down, then we would hear the hi-hat stop halfway here, right? Okay. I think I'm going to make that release time even less than 8 milliseconds, maybe 4 milliseconds, and we'll adjust that if we hear any clicking or popping. Another thing that I can do right off the jump, I produce and mix basically like every step of the way. I don't just sample a bunch of sounds and then, you know, record and excuse me, like mix and match them like tomorrow per se, but we're going to do that along the way. So we're going to make sure there's no, you know, extraneous low frequencies that maybe we can't hear on the headphones that are, you know, hanging out in this beat. We're just going to put a little bit of a high pass filter onto this, maybe up to about, you know, I don't know, a few hundred, 300 hertz maybe. Just if there's any low frequencies hanging out, now they're gone. All right. And what let's do is let's go ahead and see if we can't start a little bit of a groove with like a kick and a snare from like one of my sample packs or something. If I just go into the, you know, the main bank view here and we just play the groove, I can just start, you know, scrolling through some of my samples. And we can maybe see if we can find a kick drum today and like a snare drum to put on this. Where do we want to go today? I think maybe glitch shots might be an interesting place to start. Maybe just bring in some percussion to start us off with. Okay, let's find out here. These are all tuned too, so I have some that are tuned to F already. Ooh, this could be interesting. What do we got here? Just gonna scroll randomly through some of these sounds. Hope that's not too loud. I'm just going to start bringing some of these sounds in. I'm not really looking for anything in particular, just sounds that might be kind of interesting and not have too much tail on them maybe. Again, we could always adjust that with, you know, the envelope inside of Beatmaker 3 as well. Cool, so we've got just a kind of a selection of interesting type of sounds here that we could maybe get a little bit of a percussion groove started with. Let's see what we've got. Let's do that. Okay, what I want to do is, let's see, we're going to go back over to the song mode and we're going to stretch this out so that it's a 4-bar loop. This is just the bank 2 we're working with. We're not worried about that first track there. I just need to now go into that pattern. We're going to press the 3 dots and let it know that it is a 4-bar pattern. Just by stretching it out on the timeline isn't enough to actually stretch the pattern itself. And so now we've got a 4-bar part. Great. We can go ahead and just, let's see here, duplicate that hi-hat being held out for the full 4 bars. And let's just go ahead and just press record. Oh, whoops, it's looping around and we don't want that. So we'll go ahead and extend the loop brace out so it knows we're dealing with a 4-bar loop instead of a 1-bar loop. 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4. Let's tap something in. I'm gonna do it twice, I guess. All right, so now what I've done is just put in a really simple little kind of percussion part. And we can start messing with these individual sounds, I think, now. Oops. There we go. Just start by removing some of the low frequencies from some of these sounds with like a high-pass filter. This is going to leave us some room to add a more chunky rhythmic layer in just a moment. Let's high-pass most of these. Yeah. Let's bring that one. High pass. Yeah. Same with this one here. High pass. Let's make this one here shorter as well. See how it's, you know, kind of a long one when it holds all the way. Let's just turn that into a little bit of a shorter sound. Let's bring the sustain down on that even as well, and the release even more, and that decay. What I'm trying to do is to get, let's make that a hold as well. What I'm trying to do is just to get these a little bit shorter and more subtle. That way it's going to leave us some room to add some, larger and more chunky sounding drums over this kind of percussion groove here. That's a little loud. Let's put a high pass filter on that one as well. And let's go ahead and save at this time. All right. I think what I want to do is on these hi-hats, I think we want to, let's see here, on just the hi-hats alone, I'd like to see what the frequencies look like on those. So if I'm selected on just that pad, and I go to audio effects, let me save before we add anything here, we can put an EQ just on this pad by touching the pad icon up here across from the bank name. Once we've got that selected, now I'm affecting just the pads and not the whole bank itself. So it'll highlight, it'll tell me, you've got pad number 3 selected, and that's the pad that has our hi-hats on it. So I can go ahead and just drop an audio unit effect onto this pad only, and it's only going to be affecting the hi-hats and not the rest of the sounds in the bank. So we can go ahead and grab like the FabFilter Pro Q3 EQ plugin. We can make that full screen again with the little arrow on the right hand side, right? And then if I just play these hi-hats, you can go ahead and by default, whoops, is this not responding yet? Hold on 1 second while I see if I can get this pencil to respond. There we go. All right, we're just going to bring up my default setting, which is just allowing me to pull off lows and highs as needed. But what I want to do now is I sort of want to tame that sort of high mid-frequency section of these hats a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to pull, down a little bit there. I really like using the Apple Pencil specifically with the Pro Q3 and my rack as well on the iPad. What I'm doing is I'm just kind of tucking some of those higher frequencies back into the mix here. High resonance on a filter can get a lot of these peaks to be really aggressive. I think that sounds a little bit better and more even. We'll go ahead and save at this time. And you guys know that, if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, that I really love to put that limiter on the master bus. This is going to help protect our ears, our headphones, and our speakers. So let's go ahead and do that at this time. We're going to go ahead and bring up the main mixer. We're going to click on main out, and we're going to save before we do that. We're going to go ahead and add an audio effect. It's going to be an audio units V3, and we're just going to add the amazing noises limiter. This is my favorite limiter to use because it's super, super easy to use. I'll typically just bring the input gain on this up by about a decibel to start with, and I like to bring the saturation on this up just the tiniest little amount, maybe like 0.10 to start with. For those of you who aren't familiar with the limiter, this is going to keep our audio from going over the 0 decibel limit. And when it tries to go over, it's going to attenuate that audio so that it's going to sort of just keep everything in line. It also helps glue the mix together. And let's save at this time. All right. Let me just take a look at that mixer. We can see here that we're, getting a signal into it pretty well, but we're not doing any attenuation at this time. And that is fine because we don't really have any super loud sounds in the mix yet. All right. Yeah, an iPad is absolutely a full-scale computer. Yeah, for real. Okay, what we're going to do I probably forgot to say as well, but if anyone has any questions at all, whether they be Beatmaker 3 related, or Eurorack related, or Digitact related, or just music production related in general, feel free to drop those in the chat, and I'll do my best to address those along the way. I know sometimes, I get into the projects and the chat just starts rolling, and I miss some questions. So if I miss your question, sorry about that. Feel free to drop it in again, and I'll do my best, to answer any questions that come up in the chat. Okay, I just want to make sure that we're embedding all of these samples into the session. So we're going to click the little hamburger icon there, and we're going to click save. But this time we're going to choose save as, and it's going to allow me to like copy the session samples and the user bank samples and stuff into the project itself. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So it just embeds these samples into the project. Let's go ahead and look for a kick and a snare at this time to try to really start fleshing out this beat. I'm going to just play the groove we've got, and then maybe I'll scroll through some more of my samples to get us just some drums started here. Okay. I think I want to go to my bass music drums sample pack. Let's start with some kicks. One of the bonuses, actually, let me press stop real quick. One of the bonuses about this particular bank is that the kick drums are labeled with the root key. So for instance, if I want to work in the key of F minor today, I can potentially just scroll through these kick drums until I find kick drums that are labeled, the root key of F. And hopefully one of those will suit the vibe that we're going for. Kind of like that one. Ooh, I really like that one. Ooh, I like that one too. This is going to be hard to choose. Maybe that one. I can't decide if that's too rubbery for what I want today or not. Hold on. Ooh, that's nice too, but it's got kind of a hat on it. Be nice if we had one that was more tame. Ooh, maybe that one. Let's go with that one. Cool. So now we've got a kick drum. And let's go ahead and go on these snares as well. These aren't labeled by, note or anything. Ooh. Wait a minute. I don't know. Boy, that snare is really nice, but it's almost maybe too crispy for what we're going for. Ooh. Keep looking. There it is. Okay, let's just put in a really simple kick and snare pattern here. I'm just going to go ahead and, let's see here. Do I have it set up with a count-in? 2, 3, and... Okay. Now that we've got a kick and a snare actually, in the mix, I can kind of use those as the focal point, volume-wise, to start kind of mixing some of these other sounds around that kick and snare, so that the kick and snare will be more of the focal point of the beat and not all those other sounds. Like the hi-hats are really loud right now. Also, the metronome was still on there. All right. So what I want to do is I want to tame our first hi-hat loop. I want to bring that down a little bit in the mix. Whoops. I'm going to bring down some more of the high frequencies of that loop because it's got a little bit of that tweaky kind of resi sound on it. So we're taming quite a bit of the high frequency content from those now. We pull out a little bit more lows even. Yeah, I'm liking where we're going here. Let's try one more thing though. Let's go to the layer effects and add another filter here. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And let's filter off a little bit of these highs. In fact, it might be neat if we could modulate this with an LFO so that there's a little bit of sort of movement in our sound without us having to do anything. What let's do is double click on that knob that we want to automate or modulate, right? And I'd like to modulate this with an LFO. There's currently no LFOs available, so we'll need a new LFO. Now, if we go over to the Modulations tab, we can actually see the LFO that we just added rather, and we can sync that to tempo. And oh, I don't know, let's make it long, maybe like 2 bars, right? And let me just see if we can get this to where we can hear it, and then we'll adjust it as needed. Unfortunately, um, when you assign the modulation, we don't actually see, if I go to our layer effects page, we don't actually see, the filter reacting to that. But what we can see is this little tiny indicator here that's showing us how that LFO is moving, I believe. Yeah. And so what I want to do is I want to move it a lot slower than that. Yeah, there we go. And I also think we want this to be a mono LFO instead of poly. Let me just check on that. I think that's what I want. Yeah. We can see the movement here happening. Okay, yeah, this is what we want. So I don't know if it's coming through on the live stream, but there's a little tiny line that shows the movement of this knob. I really wish that we could, see it on the little window here, but we don't quite get to see that much. But there is a little tiny indicator showing us that filter moving. Awesome. What I want to do is I want to move it a little bit less than that. So we'll change the amount to maybe 25%. And then I can just look at that knob and see what it's doing. I'd like to push this up a little higher still. Cool. Now we've built in a little tiny bit of very subtle movement to those hi-hats. And let's go ahead and save at this time. I think I want to bring some of these other sounds down a little bit as well, like these hats. I think we're going to bring down a little more. It's getting better. And let's also do, let's save again. Let's also do one more trick, sort of to get these kick and snare punching through this percussion just that tiny bit more, shall we? We're going to take this hi-hat loop. And what we're going to do is we're going to, on the audio effects of just this loop here, we're going to attempt to sidechain the kick and the snare, just a very small amount to these hi-hats. So when the kick and the snare hit, they duck the volume of these hi-hats, just the tiniest little amount. This is really subtle stuff, but it adds up to a really polished mix in the end if you take the time. So we're going to go ahead and add a dynamics processor mode compressor, and it'll allow us to choose the sidechain input here. What I want to do is on our bank, I want to select a pad, and there's the kick drum. I like to sidechain at a ratio of 4:1, so we're going to go ahead and set that to 4:1. I like to bring the attack all the way down as low as it can go, and typically I'll actually, there's a website called musiccalculator.x. Let's go ahead and do that right now. Our tempo is 142 beats per minute. We're going to go to a website that I like to use called music musiccalculator.com. Fantastic. And we're going to go to delay timing. Now we can put in the actual tempo of our project, which is 142 beats per minute. Cool. And what I want is maybe like quarter note dotted time. Maybe actually eighth note dotted time would be better here. So let's do that. Eighth note dotted time. And what it does is it gives me the milliseconds for that. So, excuse me. Oh, right. Excuse me. I'm all over the board today. I'm really working with that side chain as well. I'm not trying to get a I usually use this for delay, but we're using it for side chain today. So I'm trying to get that super low ratio. So 1/64th note and not dotted would be like, yeah, there we go, 26.4 milliseconds. So if I want that sidechain compressor to release side chaining in sync with our project at a really tight release sync, I can set the release on that compressor to 26.4. And let's do that. So here we can set the release. Instead of its default 50, I can go ahead and go down here and I can set this to 26 milliseconds. And that's just kind of going to lock the side chaining into our project a little more. Now all we need to do is just play the groove and pull down the threshold of the sidechain compressor until it actually kicks in and very subtly starts doing its sidechain. Let's go ahead and save. It's already doing it now. We've got a little bit of a representation here of that it's working. And I just want a little bit, so we're just going to leave it like that. We're now going to add a second dynamics processor and do the exact same thing that we just did, except this time we're going to tell it to sidechain from the snare. So every time that snare hits, it's going to duck the volume of these hi-hats just a tiny, tiny little bit. I'm going to make the release time the same on this as on the other, and the attack time down to as low as it will go. We're already getting some gain reduction, and I'm going to leave it just like that. So what this is doing is just allowing the kick and the snare drum to punch through our percussion a little bit harder. And really, I like my percussion to, really hit hard. And so to duck some of the other sounds out of the way, just that tiny bit, gives them that, room in the mix to do just that. It is possible to connect a mouse to the iPad. You can do that over Bluetooth, and it works pretty well, actually. A lot of people dig that workflow. I did try it, and to be honest with you, for me personally, the iPad is such kind of like a hands-on, use with your fingers workflow tool that the mouse kind of slowed me down rather than just getting in there with my fingers and doing it. I find that when it's really small and like tedious on the screen, the Apple Pencil really shines there, but you can absolutely use a mouse for sure. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and see what else we can do here. How's the volume now that we're, got a little bit going so much? You guys, am I too loud musically or not loud enough with the vocals? Can you guys hear everything okay still? Just let me know. And what let's do is go back to Synthmaster 2. And maybe check out some of these other grooves here. Let's go to the very last one and see what that sounds like. Hold the phone there. Nope, the other layer. This one. Yeah, I like that. What let's do is let's go ahead and sample out that little bit of a chord stab. You guys know I love the chord stabs, and today's not going to be any different than normal. We're going to be using chord stabs. Okay, so what we're going to do is just go ahead and go into this pattern here and then tell it what note I want. I think it's this, yeah, it's this one here. So we're just going to, and if I actually, let's see here, I believe we just need to mute, no, whoops, this one here. And now I can hear just that Synthmaster. Yeah, cool. I think that's really all I need to do. What I want to do is I want to just sample, render that out so I can drag it back in as a sample and not be using just multiple instrument instances of Synthmaster 1. So we're going to go ahead and click the three dots so we can get to the export page. I've muted our second bank, so it's just Synthmaster 1 that's playing. We're going to go to audio export, and we're just going to export like a bar of that so we can get that chord hit. We're going to go start export, and it's going to put that in the exports directory. Let's see here. Now, if I go to the exports directory, and we've got our session today, YouTube halftime beats. I don't know why it puts these into individual folders in here instead of it's trying to like name them or something, you know. But I wish it would just drop them all into the folder so you could really see it easily. Those are our hats. And there's the chord stab. Let's see here. Before I do that, let me just highlight that and click rename. And what we can do is that's an F minor chord stab from Synthmaster 2. Whoops, 2. Oh, for Pete's sake. 2. Cool. Now when I drag that onto the pad, it's got a little bit of a name that makes a little more sense for, oh, come on, what am I doing wrong here? Grab it and drag it. And nothing. What am I doing wrong? And I've lost all my audio? Well, that doesn't sound right. Oh, I know, because I muted that so I could render out the sample. Sorry about that little hiccup there. Okay. So now we've got the individual sample on this pad, and if I want to go in and edit that sample, we absolutely can, and we are going to. So let's just do it the easy way today, and let's just go in here, zoom right on in, and bring that start point in to the very beginning of the sound. We don't even need to do any extra bit of editing. Come on. I really want that right. There we go. Cool. Let's go ahead and take off some of the low frequencies off of that sound right off the jump. We'll put a high pass filter on that. Fantastic. And what we're hearing is we're hearing the actual Synthmaster note again, so I'm going to delete that. There we go. There's an extra note there at the end that shouldn't be there. Okay, and now we can see the titles of our samples over here in the left. So if I want to, start putting in sounds, I just make sure that we're on the, not the selection tool. I don't want to call that the pencil tool because it's not really a pencil, but that's really what it's supposed to be. Yeah, let's just make that as a downbeat on every 4. Just really simple to start us off with. And what let's do is go ahead and save, and then let's get some effects happening in this mix. Let's start setting up our effects sends and whatnot, shall we? Hold on, what's wrong, Opie? I got my dog over here having a little bit of a freak out. Come here, buddy. Why don't you get back in your bed, big guy? Here you go. All right. Oh, do you need to go outside? Here. Oh, for Pete's sake. Hang on one second, you guys. There you go. All right. Sorry about that. We got a dog break. And okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start setting up some effects sends. I'd like to do, let's start with delay. And so I like to remove the low frequency content from getting into the delay. So that's not going to potentially create extra mud, like from low frequency content going through the delay. So what we want to do is on audio effects here for auxiliary 1, the first thing we need to do is just put a 6-band EQ, and I've got a preset which is cutting off all of the low frequency content beneath about 600 hertz from coming in to the reverb. Now we can add, from a delay we're going to use first today. And I'd like to use quite a few options we have. I often like to use these audio damage plugins, and they have a Dub Station 2 delay, which is very nice. Let's just go into the user section. I got a preset here called Dean's Get Down 1. Let's load that and see what happens. All right. And what we'll do is on the bank itself, it looks like we have just one channel on the mixer. And if I was to, put the effect send up on that main channel, it's going to put, that delay on everything inside of that bank. And that's not what we want. What we want to do is we want to go ahead and double click on that bank. And what it does now is it just opens up to all of the individual channels inside of the bank. And now we can put, send, delay send rather, on just that chord stab. Let's go ahead and see what that sounds like. It's got a nice delay tail. I like the way that sounds. We're going to just turn the amount of delay down a little bit, and we're going to go with that. Next up, let's add a little bit of reverb into the mix so that we have both reverb and delay to work with. Can you guys still hear my voice okay? It'll be going out okay? Just let me know if any of the levels need to be adjusted. Oops, here we go. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to close bank, the bank there so we can see our effect sends again. And auxiliary send number 2, we're going to start adding some audio effects here. We're going to do that same thing by removing any possible low frequency content from coming into the reverb that we're going to put here. So I'm going to shave off with an EQ on the send up to 600 hertz. Now we'll need a reverb. And I think we're just going to use audio damage again. And they've got a really nice verb in here called EOS 2. I'm going to go ahead and load that. And let's see, that might just be fine the way it is. What we want to do is the same thing that we just did. We want to go into the bank so we can put the effect send on just that chord stab and not all of the sounds in the bank. I'm going to put quite a bit of reverb on that to begin with so we can really hear what it's doing to the sound. Oh yeah, I like the way the reverb sounds. I want more of that reverb here. That's sounding more like the stabby kind of hit that I'm going for here. All right. I think we're going to bring the volume on that down just a tiny bit. All right. Let's go ahead and save at this time, but let's do that save as so that we can embed the sounds in here. I'm going to just make sure that we get to where it's the save as menu so we can check copy session samples and user bank samples and get everything just totally embedded into the project itself. Check in with the chat real fast. Okay. Let's see here. What I'd like to do is I'd like to see if we can't add some sort of a bass. Let me just check the volume of the stream versus the level I'm looking at here. All right. And I'd like to use Synthmaster 2 again for this. So let's go ahead and bring that up. And maybe what we'll do now is just browse for bass. And what we could do would be to just randomly through these presets, just check out some bass sounds and see if anything just sort of, starts slotting into the vibe that we're kind of building here. That is huge. Let's see here. I'm not super used to using this particular plugin yet. So what I'm trying to do is see how fast I can find or not find where we can turn that delay off inside of here. I believe it's right here. And what we're left with is just this monster freaking bass. Almost too monster. I mean, that thing is huge. Come on. That might just be too big. I'm going to go ahead and just play in a bass line. What we're going to do is make our MIDI part here for Synthmaster 2. We're going to make that a 4-bar loop so I can play like a 4-bar bass line. We'll stretch that out. 2, 3, and let's get lucky. It's not too bad. What let's do is see if we can't render that bass line out to audio. So what I want to do is I want to just close down this bank so we can, just see the regular mixer view. Let's go ahead and just save at this time as well. And I'm going to mute the bank with the drums on it and solo, so we can just solo the bass line. Yeah, they put our first note way at the end, it looks like. That happens every now and again. Actually, there's not at the end. It just missed it entirely. I see what the deal is here. Actually, what the deal is my bass line actually starts on measure 2. So what we're going to do is do a little bit of moving some notes around. We're going to put those over there, copy all of these and bring them back to the very beginning. And then we'll need to grab this little turnaround here and figure out exactly where that goes in the timing. It's very close already. That might actually be where it's supposed to be. Yeah, it is. So what we're going to do is re-mute the bank with the drums on it so that I can render out the audio of that bass line. And we're just going to go ahead and do that now. We're going to go export. We're going to go audio export. And I want to render 4 bars of that in wave format, 24 bits. Yup. Start the export. It's going to put that in the exports directory for us. And we want to grab that bass sample now and put that back on the pads of the bank that has all of our sounds that we're sampling onto it. This is just a one bank workflow today because we can put EQ and volume and effects on all of the pads individually. So we're just doing a one bank workflow today. Really simple way to work inside of Beatmaker 3. Let's go ahead and put actually, I'll leave that open for maybe a clap sound, and we'll put our bass sound up here at the top. So we're going to go in and try to find this. Okay, so halftime beats, that's us. There's the third folder, and there's our bass. Right, but we're muted, so I'll have to unmute that for us to hear it. Right, cool. Okay, so what we can do now is we can actually delete the notes of that bass line so that Synthmaster 2 isn't playing those at the same time as our bass line here. And if we look at the sample here, if I touch the pad, it just plays the whole sample by default, and we'd probably like it not to do that. So I'm going to change it, from a one shot to a hold mode. I'm going to bring the release down quite a bit so that when I let go, that it, stops playing the sample. And I think what we're going to do on this is just hold the whole little, the whole loop down for the groove. So if we, scroll into our pattern view here, we can see, actually, let me go ahead and relabel that if we can, because it doesn't, say baseline at this time. It's got the name of our session. So if I, let's see here, baseline, okay, cool. That makes it a lot easier to see. Whoops. Cool, yeah, well, it didn't change it yet, but it will. And we can put this in and hold that bass line in for the full 4 bars. So here we're just seeing, what samples are being, held down. Let's see, what am I missing? Something is a little bit screwy, and I'm going to try to find out what it is. I believe I have two patterns playing at the same time is what it is, and that is in fact what it is. We've got two patterns playing at the exact same time, pattern 1 and pattern 2. I think we can maybe, if I use the highlight tool, can't I just click merge and have it merge that into a pattern 3? I'm not really sure why it allows you to, have one pattern literally over another pattern on the timeline. I've never seen another DAW that allowed you to do that, but it seems we were able to get around that there by merging those two patterns together, and now they're in one pattern, yeah, where you can see the other parts again. Again, I'm not really sure how it let me do that. But we're just gonna try to not worry about that for now and just move on. All right. Just seeing if I'm missing anything in the chat. Oh, all right. Congratulations on that purchase, Martin. Actually had a little bit of a... Martin is saying that he purchased the Erica Sense MIDI to trigger module, and how do you configure those outputs via MIDI? There's a little tiny description that you can get on their website, and all you have to do is power on the module while you're holding down like the save button or something to that effect, and that puts you in a mode where you can then select what MIDI channel you want it to respond to, and you can press like C, D, E, F kind of thing on a MIDI keyboard to assign the MIDI channel to that, and then those notes will respond to that channel. It takes a little bit of setup, but once you get that setup, it remembers your MIDI setup information when you power it on and off. Absolutely. Cool. Okay. Now, I'm concerned about the low frequencies of this bass line possibly being a little bit too dramatic. And what we can do is we can go into the audio effects page, and let's see here. We can affect just one pad only, which we can use. We can choose the bass line, and I can add an EQ here. We're going to be the Pro Q3 from FabFilter, and this will give us a visual on the frequencies of that bass. We can go and bring up my default setting, pull off a tiny little bit of the top end for the hi-hats to have that room. I'm going to pull down just a tiny little bit of these mids here. Whoops. There it is. I want a little bit of a wider there. Just taming a tiny bit of those mids very subtly, and the lowest amount of that sub part of the bass we're going to pull down a tiny bit, because that first note, boom, is really bassy. Awesome. Now, if you remember, we did a tiny little bit of side chaining on the hi-hat loop, to where when the kick drum and the snare drum hit, they duck the volume of our hi-hats the tiniest little bit, so that they can continue to just punch right through all of these tracks that I'm adding. We're going to do that exact same thing with the kick drum on the bass sound, so that whenever the kick drum hits, it's going to pull out a tiny little bit of volume from the bass to make room for that kick to kind of punch through. Check this out. All we have to do is, we're actually on the right pad. In fact, we're on the bass line. So we just want to add a dynamics processor. And let's see here. I believe our millisecond release was like 26, I want to say. And the attack will bring all the way down. Now, I like to compress at a ratio of 4:1, so we're going to go ahead and set that to 4:1. All we need to do now is choose the input. So where it says sidechain input, I'd like it to be our kick drum. Our kick drum is on bank B because all of our samples are on bank B. And I can just select the pad and I can select our kick drum here. Now what we'll do is just play the groove and make sure that we're getting a tiny little bit of gain reduction happening when that kick drum hits. Whoops. And we are. If I go to the gain reduction screen here, we can see it. This isn't accurate, these numbers on the left, if you're curious. I mean, it's saying that we're, getting negative 40 decibels of attenuation here, but we're absolutely not in any way getting that kind of attenuation. I'm not sure what those numbers were originally supposed to represent, but they are not accurate. So you just want to see a little bit of visual representation, and you want to use your ears, of course, at the end of the day to make sure you're not getting extreme, pumping from this, because that's really not what we're after here. Of course, if that is the sound you're after, then by all means, sidechain away. All right, let's see what else we can add to this using Synthmaster 2 again. What I'm going to do is just bring this back up. We'll get it full screen. And I think maybe we'll go back to that little bits techno, big tone. Where was that? Big tone techno bits 01. Yeah. And maybe we'll just check out some of these other presets and see what they sound like. Remember, I've got a keyboard, a little MIDI controller keyboard over to the left that's allowing me to play these. Something we have to keep in mind too is there's kind of quite a bit of swing and sort of sass and groove in the part that we're making and the groove that we're putting together rather. So as I'm scrolling through these presets, a lot of presets are gonna not have any sort of swing and groove, but be real static on the 16th notes. And we have to be conscious of that type of thing as we're adding new elements. Like, does this actually fit the groove, or can I pull a little slice out of that sound and then get it into our groove that we're creating? Those are the type of things that I'm kind of listening for here as we scroll through these presets. So for instance, this preset that I've got right here is a great example of that. It's kind of an interesting sound, but it's very straight on the beat and not very swung to the beat. So I might try to look for something different. Wait, there's a really little interesting thing here. Yeah, and I'd like to get that. I'm just gonna record this into MIDI. Cool. Now when that plays back, if it's in the right spot, yeah, it sounds good. I like that. Okay, what I want to do is I want to maybe just render out that little, for lack of a better description. And if we just mute the bank with the samples on it, now we should be able to hear that. Wait for it. Yeah, just that little hit. Fantastic. What we're going to do is we're going to export that out and bring that back in. So if we go to export, if we go to audio export, we can just export these 4 bars out. We don't need to normalize it or anything, and we can just start that export. It's put it in the exports directory, so we know where to grab that sample from. Cool. And we're going to put that onto bank B here. All right, exports, and here's us today, and there's the, see, this is what I was saying earlier, I'm not sure why it needs to put every single export into its own individual folder. It seems a little bit, tedious, but that is the workflow. I'm guessing that's it there. And let's see, yeah, there it is there. And let's do this the easy way. I'm not gonna super do a lot of editing and trimming, but we'll just cut in here and just move this start point. And that's muted, so if you unmute that, we can hear what we're doing here. Yeah, cool. And we'll bring the volume up on this just a little bit, I think, as well. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Also, let's put a high pass on this. So anything under, about 250 hertz will get sort of trimmed off. Let's also go into the bank menu where we can see all of our individual pads as a mixer. And let's go ahead and crank up the delay and the reverb on that stab as well, like quite a bit. Yeah, cool. Now I just need to actually put that in so that it will, trigger in our pattern. Actually, what I can do is it's still in on the, on the Synthmaster 1, so I can see exactly where it comes. It comes 2 16th notes off of the downbeat of measure 2. So here's measure 2 and 2 16th notes. Let's just see if that's got the same timing now. Nope. What am I doing wrong? It's coming in a little too soon. So maybe, is it here? Let's find out. Nope, not yet. Maybe it was in the middle. Getting closer. There it is, right in the middle. It's kind of a offbeat type of accent. But that extra hit kind of lines up with the snare. And I really like that. Sort of leaves us an open melodic section of the groove as well. Like if I don't repeat it, I think we're gonna utilize that open section and maybe try to find another sound that we can put there, like sort of a call and response. And before I do that, I'm gonna check in with the chat real quick, see if I'm missing anything. All right. Actually, here I'm noticing they have a section for gated sounds. And that might be really neat over something like this. Kind of get a gated sound. So let's just randomly scroll through some gated sounds. Just kind of messing around with the keyboard here to my left. Oh, we just found something really cool. Yep, I'm going to record that in. I think I want it on the downbeat. I think I would put it off the downbeat for no reason, rather. Let's see here. Because it sort of goes dun 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 bump bap, and the bump bat is the sample that we just recorded into this. So it sort of leads us into that other sound. I really like the way that it does that. I just need to find the exact placement here so we can get the sonic pattern correct. Yeah, see, that's not quite it. It needs to be offbeat still. So maybe, let's find this. Yeah, so there. Dun, 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 dun. That might be it. That is it. Okay, what I want to do then is I want to go ahead and render that little sound out. Synthmaster 2 has got just a wealth of really great sounds. I went ahead and just did, the full unlock. There's a couple different packs in there. One of them's for maybe I'm thinking Synthmaster. I'm confusing now because I did Synthmaster 2 last night, presets, and also Synthmaster 1. But I really think that the in-app purchases here are really worth the salt because you can just we barely touched the surface and we're just getting inspiration after inspiration. I often say new sounds equals new inspiration, if you get my drift here. Okay. Let's make sure we're getting enough volume on Synthmaster 1 here. Yeah, let's just try there then. And what I want to do is I want to just mute the bank with our samples on it so that I can render out the Synthmaster 1 sample. So we're just going to go to the export screen, and I'm just going to export that the same way we've been doing with all the rest of the stuff. Master out, yep, 4 bars, start the export. Cool. And now we can drop this sound onto a pad inside of the bank that we're working with. So if I go to our exports folder and we find our YouTube halftime beats folder, there's our sound. And what I want to do is get that going in the groove here. So we'll need to delete it, delete the little trigger here from the actual Synthmaster 1 instrument. Whoops. Cool. And now we're just hearing the sample bank. All right. Cool. And so what I want is, I believe it was on the 1.2. Yeah. Let's find out. Take my mute off here. I'm not sure that's it. It's very close. Maybe I need to, yeah, there we go. We just need to edit that air off the beginning of this sound so that, you know, when I press the key down, our sound starts right there at the beginning. Fantastic. In fact, if I can get this, let's see, 0, yeah, grid snap. That's really what I can, yeah, fantastic. If I can snap it directly to that part of the beat mathematically, when it, you know, when it exports perfectly in time. So if I'm snapping to the grid, I'm now snapping exactly to the beginning of that, you know, down beat right there, if that makes any sense. Let's go ahead and save at this time. And I believe now we've got our new little accent synth lined up completely. Exactly. It kind of combines with that other one. Yeah, I'm really liking this. Let's go ahead and put a high pass on this. So it's just removing any of those extra low frequencies that maybe we can't hear. And let's also maybe like put a, I don't know, like a, I'm thinking maybe we could try a bit reduction on this new sound. Let's try that. Yeah, that might be cool. We make it maybe just 12 bits instead of 8 bits. Nah, I'm not really vibing that then. Let's go ahead and delete that. But what let's do is on that new stab, whoops, come on you. Accidentally tapped a pad there. Come on. All right. Try the top instead this time. Is I can grab that new sound and I can add a little bit of extra delay and a little bit of extra reverb to that new sound. Yeah, cool. Take a little bit more lows off it and bring the volume up a little bit. Bring that volume up a little more still. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to mix on headphones, you know. Let's put an EQ on this sound, on just this sound here. Scroll down here, we can go find the FabFilter Pro Q3. We can take a look at what this sound is doing in our frequency mix here, frequency spectrum. Gonna boost up a little bit of the high frequency content on this sound. Maybe not quite that much, just very subtly. And then, yeah. Tuck it back in the mix a tiny bit. All right. Hey, what's happening, Jim? Thanks for tuning in. So basically, what we've done today is just, pulled up some random presets from Synthmaster 2 and just try to get some inspiration from those. We got a little bit of a groove started using like just some noise hi-hats that we sampled out of there. I added some, more beefy drums and percussion from some of my sample packs. And then we've just gone back into Synthmaster 2 and tried to find a bass sound and some more synthesizer sounds that we could sample out of it. All right. Let's take a look here at what we've got just this 1-4 bar pattern. Let's go ahead and repeat that for now so that we've got an 8-bar loop happening. And let's go ahead also and select both of these and let's merge this into one long 8-bar loop. Maybe now we could go in at the end. You can see all of the MIDI notes in that loop now. Maybe now at the end we could go in on the bar, last bar here, and maybe do a little bit of a turnaround on the hi-hat loop. Whoops, I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to just move that over and then maybe bring it in half and then maybe duplicate it again so that we kind of move a little bit of the rhythmic variation there at the end. And also maybe we could put an extra kick drum in at the very end of those 8 bars as well. Just a tiny little bit of bump bump kind of thing leading us around to the next section. In fact, maybe we want this closer this way. Let's find out. Just listening for this kick drum turnaround and the changes in the hi-hats here on bar 8. Yeah, I like that. And what we could do would even be to put another kick drum in, but maybe we want to make that one a little bit lower in volume. So if I click on pattern MIDI here, yeah, we can see that I'm affecting the note velocity of just this sound here. Whoops. Come on. Oh, come on. There we go. I select it, and I can bring the velocity down here. Yeah, I like the way that sounds, so I'll get rid of the velocity section. And we'll go ahead and save at this time. Now you might notice that over here on the left, things are starting to get a little bit confusing because what we've got is the title of our project for 3 of those samples that we exported. It doesn't, give those, samples a name by default unless you do that. So it might be a little bit beneficial in the session to go ahead and, do that at this time rather than have this just named, the name of our session. If we get in here and we rename this one to hats loop, okay, and then up here at the top we've got kind of a stab, so we'll just rename this to like stab 2, cool, and then another stab there, so we're going to rename that stab 3. Now when we go into the actual pattern mode, it didn't update it yet, but it will soon, and then it won't say the name of the title of the track anymore. It'll say the actual name of the sample. Like this one here says baseline. It takes a little bit to update sometimes, but that will update for us. Cool. Yeah, see, it's done it now. Now it's labeled, hats loop, stab 2, stab 3, so we can get a little bit more, a visual representation of what we're actually sequencing when things are labeled properly. We'll go ahead and do that save as at this point and embed all of these sounds and samples into our project. Something that I also like to do at the beginning of, projects when I've just kind of been started and working for a little bit is sometimes to go ahead and just close Beatmaker 3. I'll let the iPad sit for a second, and then I'll go ahead and just load Beatmaker 3 again and just make sure that that project loads up without error, you know. So this is YouTube halftime beats load session, right? And we're just going to make sure that it doesn't give us any, you're missing a sample error or something like that. Because the longer you've worked on a project, say we have, 2 full banks of sounds. I can get to another page of pads and keep adding sounds. I can get to another page and keep adding sounds, right? So we could have a really big project with a lot of sounds on one bank. And if we were to load, that up tomorrow and have like an error in the project, then that's a super bummer, right? So I often like to do that, as I'm getting started, kind of, and as I'm getting a groove, kind of put together, is do that exit out and reload thing, and just make sure that all of our ducks in a row and that it loads as expected, which it does. All right, I don't want to do a super long one today, and I think that, we've gone for almost an hour and a half. We've created a pretty good sounding groove from scratch using just some of these presets inside of Synthmaster 2 and a couple of samples from my sample packs. I think we'll try to maybe add a couple of more elements today, but we're not going to go super long. So if you guys do have any questions or whatnot, now would probably be a great time to start dropping those in the chat. All right. What I'm thinking is maybe we'll get a clap sound to put on this pad here to sort of accent our snare. Maybe do a call and response where the clap is happening every other snare. I really like to do that sort of a pattern. And let's see here. Last night, if I'm not mistaken, I found a clap preset inside of Synthmaster 2. And so maybe we could just, if I can find that again, maybe we could just sample that out. Let's see here. Maybe if I go to drums specifically, there's a lot of presets here. Probably not going to get lucky finding the one that I'm thinking of, but here's a clap. Where's the, what do I have there? That's weird. Nothing's muted or anything. That's really weird. What did I do wrong? Not hearing that. Okay. Okay, and now it seems to have shot out Synthmaster 2 on us. That's odd. Let me just check my MIDI is still active. Yeah, and it is. Okay. In that case, let's not fight it, and let's not worry about getting back to Synthmaster 2 at this time, and let's just load like a clap from one of my sample packs. I'm just going to play the groove, and then we'll see if we can't find something that just sort of fits in. Further, here we go. Actually, I think in my reflective pack we have some claps that are easy to find. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, I think maybe rather than every other snare, maybe we could do like every fourth snare. Yeah. So maybe here and also here. We're probably going to want to bring the volume on that down a bit. Oops, I didn't quite line that one up there. There we go. And what let's do is let's go into the mix. Let's bring the volume on that down. It's so loud. Cool. Let's add some more reverb and delay to that. Open up our bank here. And on just the clap, I'm going to add some more delay and some more reverb. Maybe a lot of reverb. Here we go. Yeah, so we get a little bit of that tail happening at the end of the clap. I like the way that sounds. Let's get a little bit less volume on it though. And let's also put a high pass on it super gently, just to take anything off beneath about 80 hertz that may be hanging out in the low frequency content that maybe we can't hear. All right, let's make a little variation of this, shall we? If we go back to the song mode here, and let's see, if I've got this highlighted, I can duplicate it. And there we go. But there's a difference between repeat and duplicate. If I choose repeat, it's just going to play pattern 4 again. But if I pick duplicate, then it duplicates pattern 4 into a brand new pattern, and it's going to call that, pattern 5 for us. What we can do at this time is actually label these patterns, so maybe it makes a little more sense as well on our timeline. So I've got the first pattern highlighted, which is our pattern 4 now. If I double click over, not double click, but yes, well, not just one click rather. This is the pattern browser, I want to say, for lack of a better term. But we can get in here now on where it says, pattern 4. We can click these 3 dots and we can click rename. So we could call this like main groove, right? And then we could maybe call this one with the dots and rename. Maybe we could just call this variation 1 or something, right? And now what we've got is, if we look on the actual screen as well, it's labeled main groove variation 1. So even though we can go ahead and get the loop brace out, and we can work on this one here while playing the whole groove if we want, or we could work on this one here while just, having that one looping by moving the loop brace up at the top, so it's just these 8 bars here. Okay, I could tap in there. And maybe by the very first thing we could do would be to remove that main hi-hat loop. Okay, just take that out for the variation, and let's see what this sounds like. Okay, so we dropped the hi-hats, and maybe we want to add something in there. So like just a little bit of a change on the rhythmic stuff happening here. Maybe what we want to do also is maybe we want to like remove some of these melodic stabs, so it gives us a little bit more room in the mix to add something else to our new pattern. So we've taken away the hi-hats now, and we've taken away some of the melodic content. Let's go ahead and just play this groove. See maybe about adding, I don't know, like maybe a ride cymbal? There it is. I like that one. Ride 3. Let's get that on our pads here. So currently all of our pads are all filled up with samples. So I just go up to the next page. We can get up to 128 samples on a bank if we want to. So I can just go to page 2 and just continue dropping more samples here. Yeah, so we can put the ride here. By default, I can turn the high-pass filter on that ride and get rid of any of the low frequencies beneath about 500 hertz, Bring it down in the mix. Bring some more more low frequencies off of it. Maybe pan it a little bit to the left to give it its own space in the stereo field. Let's record this in. This is an 8-bar pattern. Okay. 2, 3, and 8. 2, 3, 4. Bring this down in the mix a little more. Take off the metronome there. Tuck it way back. Looks like I missed one right there, so let's fix that. All right. Let's save. I think that still might be a tiny little bit too loud. Maybe we can also mess around with the tuning on this to see if we can get it to slot into the mix a little better. Right there. It's a little more in tune, I think. You guys can hear, I haven't turned down the volume on the snare or the clap at all this whole time, and they are really, really loud. I really like the snares, you know, to hit really hard. We've got that extra clap, you know, that sort of helps it do the same. Might be a little too loud still. What we can do is we can sort of hear this in context with taking the hi-hats out and bringing the ride in. If we just bring our full, you know, loop back here. Whoops, our loop, come on. If we just get our loop brace back to these full 16 bar, oh, come on. Instead of just that 8 bars. So we can hear the original pattern with the extra hi-hats and the extra melodic content. And then we do a little bit of a change up here. Something that we could do also, you know, to like set off these different sections would be to, you know, use a different chord stab maybe on the downbeat of this section here. We can go ahead and repeat that, and we can repeat that so that we've got a 16 bar section and a 16 bar section. And we could just continue adding to this. We could continue adding more sounds. We could, you know, if we wanted to, we could start adding more banks. We could really, the limit is just, you know, how much you've put into your iPad and how much of the CPU it's taking up. Let's see how we're doing on that. Speaking of, you know, CPU. We're barely taxing the iPad at all. It's, you know, for the most part, sitting around, you know, I don't know, 10%. It's bouncing around a little bit up to as high as 17%. But for the most part, it's sticking to about 6, 7%. I have my latency set to 128 samples. So if we wanted the, you know, to get more CPU, we could raise that number as well. But that takes away the amount of like latency to the touch. And I really find, this is the iPad Pro 2019, and I really find that, you know, with 128 samples of latency in 24-bit mode, you got plenty of room for getting, you know, a lot of different things into the mix here. All right. Let's see what we got here and play this back to back. But this, what that is going to do, yeah, it's just going to put that chord sample the entire way. Let's go ahead and remove that then from the variation, the downbeat stab. And where is that? It's right on this one here, FM chord stab. Let's just highlight just those 2 little stabs and get rid of those. And then let's make sure that it's done the same thing over here, and I'm pretty sure it will have. Yeah, cool. So now we've got 2 different, very subtly different variations of that pattern. You know, we might get in here and do, you know, much more, you know, change up the percussion or even remove the percussion, you know, from one of these sections so that you've got more of an, you know, A and a B per se. Here we go. Bring up Synthmaster 1 again here. And I wonder if we could just maybe throw a nice sustained pad over this whole groove. Come on, drums. Oh, right, Synthmaster is being weird, that's right. So yeah, we'll pass on that. Again, that would have been potentially a good thing to do. Let's see if we can't make that happen, though. What I want to do is just see if we can't delete this bank. Nope, that's the wrong. No, it is the right bank. This is our bank, even though it changed color. That's still our bank. Yeah, fine. And what we can do is potentially add another new track and then just reload Synthmaster 1 onto that. Give me just 1 second. It's where is that? Here it is. Onto B1, Synthmaster 2. Yeah, it doesn't seem to want to. It seems like Beatmaker 3 is giving me a time at this time. So what let's do is let's see if we can't fix it, because sometimes I like the challenge, you know. Let's go, save as, let's embed these samples, right? Make sure we got that. And then what let's do, since it doesn't seem to want to load Synthmaster 2, you know, here I am on the track, here I am selecting it, and it just doesn't want to load, right? So we're going to close down Beatmaker 3. Give the iPad, you know, a second to breathe or whatever. Then we'll try to load it up again. All right, and we're going to go open session, and we're going to go to our session, YouTube halftime beats, cool. And then here's our second. Okay, so it did load it onto that pad. It's just being a little strange today. Cool, let's go ahead and bring the volume on that down just a little bit. All right. And what let's do is maybe see if we can't just find some sort of a sustained pad sound to put over this entire groove. If I go to browse and we go to pad and we just start randomly, you know, checking out some of these presets. Wait a minute. Let me go down an octave on that one. No, not quite right. Interesting though. Kind of like this one. Let's see. Yeah, let's go ahead and record just some simple little notes in on this here. What I'm gonna do is this is gonna be for Synthmaster. What let's do is let's go ahead and loop just that last part there. And let's go ahead and put in a part for Synthmaster 2. If I click up here where it says playing song, I can change this pattern into, like, you know, an 8-bar pattern. And we can pull that out to the full 8 bars. Cool. What we can do is maybe go back here and, come on. There we go. And I can just hit record. 3 and 1, 2, 3 and. I think that was a 16 bar instead of an 8, but let's see if it recorded everything that I played in. Yeah, it sure did. All right, we can go in here and we can, whoops. Let's just kind of get some of these onto the grid, I think, is what we'll do. A little bit there. Whoops, undo. Just want to slide this. Come on, tiniest little bit here. Whoops, undo. Just kind of even this out just the tiniest little bit more. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Whoops. All right, there we go. Looks a little bit more snap to the grid now. So what we can do is the same kind of thing that we've been doing, like workflow-wise, right? We can go down and we can mute the bank that has all of our sounds on it, so we're just getting that pad. Whoops. Oops, I did the wrong mute. There we go. You hear how there's a little bit of syncopated rhythmic action happening in this pad as well? Yeah, that's really nice. Let's go ahead and render that out, shall we? We're just going to go export. We're going to go audio export, and we're going to do 16 bars this time. And bar 1, 16 bars. Start export. All right, it's going to put that in the exports directory for us again, where we can now come in and delete the actual MIDI that remove there, that Synthmaster was playing, and we can just go find that sound, the sample rather, and we can drop it in to the pad that's to the bank rather that's containing all of our samples. So let's see here. We want to go to exports and YouTube halftime beats, and this must be it. Whoops. Okay, and we're muted, of course. There we go. Nope, it didn't render it out that time because something went wrong. Okay. Well, let's try that again then. If I go in here and can I delete that? Yeah, cool. We'll go to the menu. Well, actually, I'm going to need to undo a whole bunch because let's see. Maybe I can just prop that back in again. Come here. Is that really just an 8-bar pattern? Is that my pattern? Yeah, it's my pattern. Okay. Cool. Oh, I know why. Because when I exported it, I said bar 1 to 16, but we're actually starting on bar 25 right now. So that was an export glitch on my part. And I've also muted the wrong track again. So let's fix that. Yeah, and what we want to do, rather, is we want to do measure 25 for 8 bars. Okay, fantastic. Now we've got that set up. All right, so let's go ahead and export, audio export, and we want to go 8 bars. Whoops, 8 bars, but we want to start at bar 25, not at bar 1. Okay, 25, start at bar 25 for 8 bars. All right, start that export. There we go. Now, let's see here. We can go ahead and remove the MIDI from Synthmaster 2, so that's not playing anymore. And we can go ahead and go to the the bank, where we're loading the samples onto the pads. And then we can go ahead and find that new render. Whoops. But I'm still muted, right? Yeah, okay, there we go. So there's our recording, and we can tell this that, you should only hold while I'm holding down the pad, not play the whole sample in its entirety every time. Maybe we'll put a little tiny high-pass filter on this one as well, and then we'll just go into this variation here, and we can go ahead. Actually, it's doing that mislabeled thing again. We should probably give that a title. But here we can just hold that down for all of those 8 bars. Let's give it a title, though. Instead of, just the title of our project, we'll rename this to 8-bar pad riff. And there we go. Let's just save at this time. And let's go put a little bit of delay and reverb on that. So if we go into, our pad view in the mixer for bank 1, I can see that 8-bar pad riff. And I can put some delay and I can put some reverb on that. And what we can do is go back to the song mode here, drop this one out. Or does it have it in both now? I don't. Yeah, it does. Cool. So what we've got then, whoops. We've got, our main groove that we put together, and now we just have a little variation of that where the hi-hats stop, a ride cymbal starts, and we have a pad that comes in at that time as well. So not really much work so far on the arrangement of this, but you can see, how we would continue fleshing something like this out. Let's just play this in its entirety so we can hear that transition. Hey, what's happening, Audible Video? Thanks for tuning in, Omri. All right. here comes our transition. I'll see what's happening. What is happening here? We're getting the, hold on. Yeah, it sounded good, so I didn't really notice. But what we're getting is that pad happening in the main groove as well. That's a little odd. Not really sure what I have done wrong there because I'm not seeing it playing exactly. But we'll try to figure it out. What we're going to do, I think, first is just delete this bank that has Synthmaster on it. Yeah, and it's suddenly not playing anymore. So there was some sort of a glitch there. So Beatmaker 3 has been a little bit glitchy, in fact, today, but it is what it is. You know, you just kind of work through those. You know, you save a lot, you exit and reload if you need to. Let's check this out now that we're actually hearing what's intended. So the pad won't play for these first 16 bars, and then we'll introduce like the ride, the hats will drop, and we'll bring that pad in. Boy, that snare and that clap are so loud. Here comes the change up. So that pad is maybe a little too loud. So we can bring that down. And maybe it needs its own space in the mix a little more. So we can maybe pan that a little bit to the right. Yeah. Maybe we could bring our hi-hats up in the mix a little bit now that they kind of come in and out as well. Yeah. I think our snare is in fact going to need to come down half a decibel. It is so loud. And let's do that change up. I might put like an impact sound or a crash sound on the beginning of these patterns to help that, you know, downbeat flow kind of thing. Yeah, in fact, these drums are just so loud that what we might do is come in here and bring the kick drum down half a decibel and bring the snare drum down half a decibel and bring that clap down half a decibel just because they're so loud. Where's that ride? Oh, it's on the second bank. Yeah, let's bring that ride down another decibel as well. Cool. I do think that there are some 808 type presets in the Synthmaster 2, but I don't think there's really that much room in the low frequencies of this groove for us to add much more low frequency content. Okay, so we've been going for just about 2 hours. Just a chilled session today, doing a little bit of halftime writing inside of Beatmaker 3. I was inspired by some of these Synthmaster 2 presets while scrolling through them last night, and I really encourage you, especially like if you're maybe not specifically inspired for exactly what you want to create, I really think that new sounds can help with new inspiration. So I was just randomly scrolling through some of the presets inside of Synthmaster 2 last night and stumbled across those big tone, you know, techno presets, which we used to kind of get started today in a direction that wasn't a techno type of vibe. And I really, you know, recommend sometimes just scrolling through presets and see if something actually jumps out at you. All right. I was going to play this again, but we've just, you know, listened to it about, you know, 6 times in a row, so I don't really think that's necessary. I think we are going to go ahead and call it today. I really appreciate, you know, you guys tuning in and hanging out with me. And until next time, I guess we're going to call it. So thanks for watching, everyone. All right. Oh, thanks very much. Yeah, 1 year of live streams on Sundays. All right. Thanks very much for tuning in and hanging out with me, you guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me on these live streams. All right. Thanks, Jim. All right. All right. So until next time, everyone, thanks for watching.